Hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's go way back first. Oh, this one is the right one. Yes. Let's go to the last show you did prior to this sequence. What did you say to each other?
I can't even remember. Oh, was it at the... Did we play at like Chelsea Football Club or something? Stamford Bridge. We played like an underground venue there. I think that was the last thing we did on the last round, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I can't. I think you often don't even realise at the time what the last thing is.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the diary's empty.
Yeah. I seem to remember sort of during the course of 2013 when we were doing those final shows, that maybe some of the passion and enthusiasm had begun to melt away. I think in part because of I'd said I wanted to go off and do a solo project, and I guess that took the wind out of everyone's sails to a certain degree. But I also think probably, we'd been touring and making records, pretty much 10 years sort of non-stop at that point, and I think it takes it out of you. Inevitably, you kind of lose some of that freshness and enthusiasm that you have when you first start. So,
when did you say to them that you wanted to do a solo album? Was it prior to recording Strangeland, or during the recording, or?
It was during the first part of touring, I think, of Strangeland. I mean, my life was definitely, it felt very extreme at that point. I was definitely still struggling with my addiction, and but also, the other end of that, I also felt this desire to step away from Keane and have the freedom, I suppose, feel like I had the freedom to really focus on making my own record. So it was a weird time, but I think it was maybe we were on tour in America, very beginning of 2012, and I suddenly just thought to myself, you know what? I think maybe the best thing is to step away and focus on other things for a while.
Maybe becoming your own person. Or not?
Well, there's definitely a little bit of that, isn't there? When you grow up together, making with the same dream, and you're kind of all pulling in the same direction to make it a reality, and then you're sort of in tour buses and hotels and shows all around the world and for years and years. Yeah, you were saying it the other day. You sort of you lose a bit of your individuality, don't you?
What was it for you when he told you that he wanted to do a solo album? Was it something that you saw coming, or?
Yeah, I think it was kind of brewing up.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I felt sad about it, but I also totally, understood that, if you want to, well, firstly from a musical point of view, like if you want to make your own music, whoever it's with, you've got to do that, otherwise it's going to be poisonous, But also, as Tom says, I do totally understand, and I think we all feel it inevitably, that if you're in a band, everybody sees you as like this one unit that moves as one and thinks as one, whereas of course the reality is you're individuals, and I suppose when you get to, if you're kind of 36 and you've got 2 children, and you're not like a bunch of 18-year-olds in a band, like sort of blood brothers together on a mission. It's sometimes it feels kind of ludicrous. Your every step in life is dependent on a bunch of other people.
What was it like for you to see him struggling during that time with his addiction? Was it something that you could help with, or did you see it?
Well, I mean, it's a very long story, I suppose, but I mean, during the band, even during the time that we were making albums and touring before, you know, yeah, it was very hard. But I suppose you know, I almost got to a point where I felt like I can't. I suppose it had done a lot of damage to me as well, to be honest. So I sort of got to a point where I just thought, I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to help. So I almost just sort of stopped getting involved. But then, you know, that even after we stopped touring together, you know, then it almost got even worse. And I sort of wasn't part of that at all.
Yeah.
What was the time like for you then? You stopped touring. Did you think, well, this is the end of Keane, or well, we will get back together? What was your sentiment?
Well, we left it very open, and I think, you know, we occasionally kind of checked in about it, and I know that Tom wanted to see how it felt, I suppose, with the solo stuff, which again totally makes sense. But I suppose at the same time it was quite hard being in limbo. So you know, so it was quite difficult psychologically, but also probably good to have a break. You know, I think I was ready for a break too. But after all, you know, I learned a lot. You know, I was having a tough time with my marriage. You know, my marriage broke up with my wife, and you know, so I was dealing with a lot of that stuff. And then musically, I did a lot of writing with other people, and you know, some interesting stuff. But I also learned, I really started to appreciate how much I missed working with Tom and the other guys from Keane, and how much they will bring to the music and how good the music we make together is. So I think it was good. It was good to have that break, and we all learned a lot from it.
What was it for you? Those first years were hard years?
Away from the band. It was, again, it was a strange cocktail of different experiences, because my daughter was born, which obviously was a completely joyous occasion. And I really, you know, the freedom I felt from being able to just be my own master of my own destiny and get up each day and try and write songs and start that process of the solo record was really, it was very exciting. But all of that was matched with the madness of my addiction, which sort of 2014, it sort of really, that was the worst it ever got. And so it was a peculiar time. Then beginning of 2015, I finally got myself sober. And really from that point onwards, it was, you know, obviously over the years, all this stuff, I kind of stored it up inside, and creative energy, sort of things that I'd repressed emotionally, and just a kind of, you know, all of the energy that had gone into being an active drug addict, suddenly it had to go somewhere, and it all kind of poured out in this sort of, so beginning of 2015, all the way through that year, I just wrote and wrote loads of songs, lots of which I was really happy with. And then early 2016 started recording the solo album. So, although that break away from Keane started with a lot of craziness and a lot of hard times, it also turned into something very beautiful and exciting, and I learned a lot about myself.
What did you learn then? What is the thing that made you decide, well, now I'm going to go full force and creatively myself and stop with all the craziness?
Well, there were lots of things in terms of an addiction that I think where you get to a point where you realise that either you're going to end up killing yourself or at best like lose everything. You know, that was that was certainly on the cards. Or you could, you know, my other choice was, when I wake up tomorrow, this has got to end, and thankfully it did. There's a lot of therapy involved, and a lot of really hard work and facing up to things that felt very uncomfortable.
Did you speak to each other back then?
I mean, not so much through that particular time. I don't think. I mean, it's. I was definitely, not a lot anyway. Definitely to the extent that I wasn't really aware that Tom was sort of in such a bad place at the time. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like we went sort of years without talking, but I suppose, I don't know, months, probably often months.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember.
What do you think of his solo album?
It's great. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, it's fantastic.
Was it? Was it hard? Was it a happy moment, or was it for you? Compare it to your years with him with Keane. What was the sentiment? No, were you happy for him, or were you thinking, well, hey, he's not on the songs that I write, or I don't know. Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, most importantly, I was happy for Tom, because I totally understand that. As I was saying before, if you have a need to express something, and especially, well, it was a long process, because I can remember, I can't remember what happened when, but I remember originally when you had a load of demos, and then sort of management weren't being very supportive, and I remember feeling very defensive on your behalf. Yeah. So I was very happy, even though I think after that, you had sort of addiction problems and so on. I was very happy that then, at the end of that, I suppose there was a lot to write about.
Yeah.
And some great music that came out of it. I mean, and then of course, at the same time, it's very bittersweet because I love making music with Tom, and I sort of felt probably around the same time I was definitely starting to be very disillusioned with writing for other people, and I really wanted to start making some music I cared about, and I'd much rather be doing that with in a Keane context.
Two questions. One question is there one song of a solo album that you say, well, that really touched me or surprised me even with what he wrote or what he did music-wise? Or
oh gosh, that's a tricky one. What was the one we played in battle?
Quicksand.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that there's, it's such a cohesive album. And tells that story. I mean, I suppose it's a very bittersweet story, although very hopeful, I guess, in the end.
They're all brilliant, that's what you're saying.
They're all brilliant. I mean, I love Quicksand, I suppose, if I don't know, if I had to choose one, but I mean, in a way, I like the dark stuff, but, that's just me.
Did you ever feel the need, because you said you were writing for other people, you were disillusioned with it, did you ever feel the need, well, maybe then I form another band, a new band, or find another soulmate, maybe, I don't know, or was it for you just Keane or nothing for your own output?
Well, it's funny, I mean, people did sort of suggest that kind of thing, and I mean, the music industry is very weird, and I don't feel, even the co-writing stuff, as I say, I struggled with a bit. And then people would say, look at, there was a bit of a trend for kind of bands where, there were a couple of kind of synthy puppet masters in the background, like playing a synth and doing some beats. And then, you get the sort of beautiful woman who's like 20 years younger to be the singer or whatever.
It's just like Keane.
And I don't know. And people kept saying, "Oh, why don't you do that?" And it's like that. I suppose there comes a point where you have to consider all options, because I just felt like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with my songs or my songwriting or my musical passion? And I felt like instinctively I just didn't want to do any of those things. I didn't really want to form another band. I have a little side project with Jesse from Keane, but that's a very small thing. Basically I just love making music with Tom and Rich and Jesse, and I just think we're better. I don't want to do something that's like Keane but not as good.
When you did your own solo albums, you did 2. What did you start? Did you start appreciating certain parts of Keane more than maybe when you stopped, while working on your own, while working on those solo albums?
I think I appreciated how much effort is required in terms of writing a record. Well, yeah, I say effort. It is, if you've got the inspiration, then actually it's a really wonderful time, because you feel all this, you suddenly kind of uncover something inside yourself, and all of this music flows out of you, and you really, the process is trying to capture that. But you still have to put in a lot of time and effort, and spend a lot of time kind of thinking about the stuff you've written, particularly lyrics and all of that. So definitely I sort of thought of just how much work Tim has put in over the years, to make to get to that point where we would have a bunch of songs to record, and there was that. But other than that, no, I really just enjoyed the process.
What did you enjoy the most?
By nature, I'm quite, despite the fact I'm this front man, I'm actually, I think, quite a shy person. Socially quite awkward. Or that's the way I feel anyway. I might not act like that.
Is it true? Is it true what he's saying?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I take it as a sign of intelligence.
Yeah, I tend to, I feel like my default is to isolate myself, basically, and avoid situations. But when you make a solo album, you have to meet people. You have to throw yourself into those situations, whether that's when you're writing or with, the musicians that are going to either play on the record or come out with you and play live, and producers and all of those personnel. You have to build that team from scratch, really. Yeah. And I was very anxious about that. I thought, oh God, how am I going to find the energy for it? But of course, it was actually a really lovely thing once I sort of got over myself and put myself in those positions. And I met so many great people, so many really musical people as well. And it was very enlightening actually, to sort of step out there into another world.
Okay. You released in 2016 and 2017 an album, and I'll read out a quote that you said, because I think that's maybe the starting point of.
The quotes. Yeah, go on.
No, I think it was a really nice quote. I found myself wondering how I had come to let this very enigmatic and important relationship in my life drift.
Yeah, right.
When did you get to this realization?
Well, one of the ways that I stay well is, just in life in general, but certainly through my addiction. The way I've got well is through a lot of psychoanalysis, therapy, basically. It's quite a rigorous form of therapy, and it's very detailed, very involved. It's sharing everything with another person, and so you look at the relationships in your life, and the important ones, and try and be uncompromising about looking at those things. And you know, and obviously one relationship that's, as I say in that quote, seemed to have drifted was my relationship with Tim. You know, as we were discussing earlier on, we hadn't really seen each other, and yeah, and I just felt like it was that was a concern to me. I'm sure if I wanted to be my normal avoidant self, I could have just gone, oh well, you know, maybe I'll see Tim at some point. But you know, but it felt to me like, actually no, I must address this and do something about it. And so yeah, so I phoned him up, and then we met up for a fireside chat at the end of 2017.
What was it for you when he phoned you up?
Yeah, great. I was really pleased about it. I think I really needed it actually at that time. I think I just sort of reached I mean, part of, you know, I was saying about them not really knowing where I was going musically, and I'd recorded a load of songs on my own. That was where I'd got to basically. I was like, oh, I don't like writing with other people. I don't want to start a new band or whatever. I'll just do some songs on my own. So I'd recorded a load of songs, and then I'd really lost confidence in them. And so I got to the end of that year feeling a bit like, well, I really don't know what comes next. I had no idea what to do, basically. Yeah. So, you know, and also in the process of recording on my own, I was really missing, you know, these guys musically, but also just that company and, you know, the kind of brotherly relationship. So yeah, it was all very good timing.
Did you know what he was going through with his marriage?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I knew about it. And I think I'd made an assumption actually that, you know, he kind of got through the worst times, because obviously it'd been quite a few years by that point, and you know, I thought, oh, Tim's probably moved on, and but actually, as you know, the songs reflect, it was almost like there was a delayed reaction, a sort of, you know, post-shock reaction, and so yeah, I didn't realise quite how sad he felt about the whole thing, and that's what I got from the songs, you know, more than anything else. So as very often with the two of us, the communication happens, you know, more sort of what's the word? I don't know, subtly, or sort of through another form or medium, and yeah, through the songs, I suddenly saw the kind of depth of emotion that he'd felt about his marriage breaking down and how it was still affecting him, and so my immediate reaction was, God, you know, I want to be there for Tim, and as a friend, but also as a singer, you know, and a singer who loves singing songs full of high emotion and real honesty and vulnerability. It was all there. It was like, wow, I want to sing these songs, you know, for those two reasons.
Were you hesitant to let him hear the songs?
No, not at all. I mean, well, only in that, you know, I wanted Tim to like them, I suppose. But that's always the case, you know. I always really sort of, you know, it's very disappointing if I play Tom a load of songs and, you know, he doesn't like them. But that's
never
fine.
Happened, has it?
Well,
maybe
there are always some, you know, some
very
and some.
Very rare.
Yeah.
What was the song that you triggered most when he let you hear the songs?
Well, there was a batch. So there was this sort of solo album that Tim had written, which I think, you know, sort of unencumbered by the pressures of Keane and all of that, and obviously wanting to access this these feelings of real kind of sadness. He'd produced this sort of solo album that was just every song was very honest, and I know there was sort of the reaction from other people had been like, oh, some of it's too hard to hear, but actually those are the bits that I really loved the most, because I think that's a part of like art that really appeals to me, is when there's no filter, there's nothing holding back the pure sort of emotion and experience. And so there were a few songs actually. Two of them have made them onto Cause and Effect, which are Strange Room and Thread. And I'd pick either of those. I think Thread is. Yeah, Threads are just it's a beautiful song melodically, but I think also just that idea that sort of in the song of, this kind of great thing that you built suddenly going, this marriage and this relationship and everything that entails over such a long period of time. That big thing in your life going and it feeling like it's just hanging there by a thread. I thought it was a beautifully conceived song, so obviously I was very drawn to that.
When you decided to record an album together with Keane again, were there certain things that you said, well, we must do this differently to avoid, things that happened in the past?
Yeah, when we first met up, all four of us, we talked explicitly about trying to make sure the whole process was fun, basically, and also I think probably more the touring was likely to be more of a worry. Although, to be honest, I think it affects everything. I think there was just a principle of like, okay, well, we need to respect each other's need to not say yes to everything, and to fill the diary for years on end with stuff, so there was that conversation, but also I think maybe even more importantly, just in the intervening years, we'd all learned so much about ourselves and about our flaws and habits or habitual behaviour, I suppose. That I think we are all better equipped to deal with ourselves and each other in a more kind and supportive and patient way, and hope for. And I think that makes a huge difference. It really does make a difference, because one of the biggest things I think is that when you're on the road or something, you get down, or you get tired, or you get frustrated, and you think, why is it me that feels this way and everyone else is fine? And of course the reality is that everybody has these sort of ups and downs, and there's no one else around to support you. We have to support each other, because no one else is going to really, in the moment. So I think learning that actually it's really important that we help each other out and are always supportive, that makes a huge difference. Yeah,
Keane in the old days it was a place where we were quite judgmental and quite of ourselves, of each other.
Yeah.
There were a lot of problems that never got addressed, so really avoiding stuff and not confronting things. And so it could quickly become quite a toxic place, and quite an unhealthy place. And so I think everything that Tim just said, is a sort of a way of trying to make sure that those things didn't happen again. So because we talked about, let's really enjoy this, let's really celebrate what we have. And I think in order to do that, it has to feel a bit touchy-feely and respectful and all of those things.
Is there one song that when you were recording this album that he sang to, you say, well, this is that emphasizes what I missed? Maybe there's one song that.
Well, I mean, all of the songs
Okay.
really. It was very exciting to hear Tom singing the songs. You know, I mean, I always love hearing Tom singing, and that's not a new thing. And you know, that's one of the great things about being in Keane. Even though, you know, we've been making music together for 30 years or something terrifying like that, you know, I still find it exciting listening to Tom sing, especially if it's a new song and it's the first time. I mean, I don't know, you could probably pick any song. I do remember there's a song called I'm Not Leaving, which is, you know, one of the very emotional ones, but it's very magical and dreamy, and there's something about that vocal that was, you know, you need to be a really great singer to make that one, you know, fly. And I remember the first time hearing Tom sing that, it just instantly sounded like a magical piece of music just because of the vocal. So yeah, very, very cool and very exciting.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.